Oh man, that's a cool intro. Right on. My sister's been hard at work making some new intros. Oh, that's my favorite one so far. What do you think? Welcome in, everybody. My name is Carey Holzman. We're going to start just a little bit early today, about 5 minutes early. Give people chances, opportunities to jump into the chat and join us here live. And I've got a couple of exciting things to talk to you about. The title of the video sort of gives away the first thing I want to talk to you about. And then there's some real serious NSA level security news going out today, which is also the last day of Windows 7 support. Rest in peace, Windows 7. Ye were a good old operating system for 10 years, and now a Viking funeral is owed to you. There will be updates released today. The last updates ever for Windows 7 for home users. Any corporate entities that want to pay Microsoft a volume license for updates for Windows 7 may do so, and it will get more and more expensive every year. And if they decide 2 years from now that they, the company, let's say you're a big corporation, you don't pay for the updates, you start running Windows 7 without the updates, and then a year or two later you decide, maybe we should pay Microsoft for the updates. Microsoft will charge you for the 2 years you missed because you're going to need all those updates you missed. They're all cumulative. They all build on one another. So you're not saving any money. So we'll see how many big corporations make that wise decision to save money. But in the meantime, for home users, which I'm sure all of you are, you don't have an option. You cannot buy Windows updates. And it's time to move to Windows 10 or go to a different operating system. Linux certainly has plenty of opportunity to snag Windows users at this time. It may be a good time to try it, see if it's a good fit for you. Jesse Kirk has contributed $5 to the broadcast. He says, props to Lindo, those new intros are awesome. I know, right, Jesse? She's just getting better and better. Brendan Looney's contributed £2, and Jesse Kirk also contributed $5 at the very start of the the stream announcement, even before I went live. Thanks you guys so much for joining me. And I am really excited about what I'm going to offer you, what I'm going to talk about today. 3 more minutes. We'll wait for everybody to jump in. We'll talk about more of this major security issue that affects Windows 7 and Windows 10 that was announced today. It was announced, I think, by the Washington Post. PCWorld.com has a great article on it if you want to jump ahead. I'll be going to that link a bit soon, and we'll discuss that and what that means. Also, what else was in the news? Oh, I've got this computer behind me. This is going to a gentleman named Joey. And Joey wants that Be Quiet PureBase 500, the non-windowed one that I built a machine in. And Joey's got all the same parts, except for the RAM and the solid-state drive. But I think everything else is the same, and if I just move the RAM and solid-state drive and trade them between the two machines, then ultimately this machine will be available for sale for about $1,000 if anybody's interested. And in the build video, it's got all the specs. Reach out to me and let me know. You can certainly change the RAM, change the amount of RAM, change the amount of storage, the type of storage. Add an optical drive if you want to, or take it as is, and I can ship it pretty quickly. So know that that's available, and I'm going to build about 2 or 3 more just like this. What else? Gosh, there's so much. I looked at a potential studio space today, and to find something that is equivalent to the sort of the width and the depth of this kitchen, I'm looking at $4,000 a month plus another $125 to pay for parking a month. Though I can get it on sale for $2,400 a month, I'm still looking at around $20,000 a year and a half an hour drive, to go to a studio. But it's a much more professional atmosphere. I won't have all the interruptions. The equipment will be safe and secure. I have 24/7 access to the building. And of course, what I won't have control over is if they decide to raise the rent, and then if I can't afford it anymore, I have to move everything back out again. So I'm on the fence about this. I'm going to look around to some potential sponsorship opportunities. But yeah, at $4,000 a month, it was about but what? So what did that calculate that out to? 4,000 a month is nearly $50,000 a year at $2,400 a sorry, not 1,400. It's $2,400 a month. I don't remember what I just said. So I'm looking at $2,400 a month times 12 months, right? That's 24,000 plus another 4,800. So we're at like 28.8 plus the 125 a month for parking. So that's, I take back what I just said. It's about $30,000 a year on the discounted side from what would be $50,000 a year for what is a pretty small studio space, but it'll have the depth that I need to, be far enough away from the camera. It solves the issue, it should solve the issue regarding sound. I can control the lighting 100%. The room is bare, so it's very echoey, but that's a pretty easy problem to solve. And I just have to decide if I want to reach out to potential sponsors, and then we have to negotiate whether or not my channel has a big enough audience to justify $30,000 a year for their return on their investment. But it's a really nice space. The building is brand new. It still has that new building smell, and most of the offices are wide open because it's brand new. In fact, the office I'm looking at isn't even open yet. So it'll probably be pretty empty the first, I would imagine, 6 months to a year as they sell spaces in it. So it should be nice and quiet. And hopefully even after that, it will stay quiet. If I decide to do that, I don't know. It's a lot of money. It costs me nothing to film in my kitchen. But I do get those interruptions, whether it's the landscapers or the UPS guy or the FedEx guy or the Amazon guy or, whatever. I think I would make videos more frequently in a more professional environment where I had standard hours. So I'm really on the fence about how I want to proceed with this, but at least I got some numbers, which is what I needed. I needed those numbers. And then I've got to talk with their IT person to find out if they even have the bandwidth. Because if they don't have the bandwidth, then I can only make pre-recorded videos there. And then I'm not as encouraged. So we'll see. I can rent a house for this kind of money, a big house, and have an entire house for this kind of money and don't have to drive that far or pay for parking. So there are alternatives, but I had to start somewhere. And this is through an organization called WeWork. And WeWork had a lot of bad press because they were significantly overvalued. In Silicon Valley, all these startups, sometimes things get a little crazy with valuations, what a company is worth. And for some reason, a really good salesman of a CEO convinced people that his company was worth about 100 times more than other companies like WeWork. There's other shared cooperative office rental places around the world, and they don't have valuations anywhere near what WeWork was valuated at. But that's all since been resolved, and the company's doing well, and I think the CEO got ousted, if I'm not mistaken. It's a fascinating story, and it'll probably go down in the history of sort of the out-of-control investment crazes and overvaluations of companies. Valuations, not evaluations, valuations. What's the company worth, and how that can sometimes, be so off the charts that you have to see it to believe it. Like, that didn't really happen, did it? Oh yeah, it happened. But that shouldn't be a concern anymore. That's all done, and so they'll be around. It's a great idea. I wish I'd have thought of it. Get some office space and just divvy it up and sublet every little office for different size needs of companies that don't want to pay for their own place. Also, the rent is a bit high because all of these WeWork locations are in prestigious areas. So they're in the Biltmore area, Scottsdale, downtown Phoenix. I don't need that. That's when you want to impress your clients and you bring them to your fancy office downtown or in some upscale part of town. Nobody's coming over to my place. So I would be happy being in another part of town where the rent is cheaper. But it still has to be secure. I can go find some places real cheap, but I wouldn't want to leave my camera equipment or my customers' computers there overnight. So there's a balance. The cheaper, dodgier places also more likely to have unwanted noises as well. and then you've got the super high-end sort of upscale places, which I don't need that, and I need to find something in the middle ideally. So I'll keep looking, but in the meantime, I know at least for a place like that, it's about $30,000 a year, and it's about the size of this kitchen. That's about all you're getting. Actually, the kitchen's bigger. Maybe not. Maybe pretty darn close to the size of the kitchen. But anyway, just to fill you in on what I've been doing today. That's what I was out. Got a little bit of a late start. Can Norton Antivirus Security cover the issues for security on Windows 7? Well, that'd be well and good if all the security issues were virus related. Unfortunately, there's lots of other issues, other ways that you can be infected that have nothing to do with the traditional means of a virus. Like, forget about email attachments. When your crypt32.dll file is open to infection or open to exploitation, it'll happen behind the scenes, all because you connected to the internet. You don't necessarily have to do anything. When your Adobe software doesn't get updated, or your Flash software, or your Java software isn't current and up to date, or the companies are late patching it, that's another venue, just by visiting a website, even though you clicked on nothing, that it can take over your computer, infect your files, create ransomware situations. There's about, I don't know, at least a dozen different ways for viruses or infections to get on your computer that involve nothing about you or your antivirus or what you click on. Like, it doesn't matter if you're not clicking on links in emails, or you're not going to certain websites or torrenting files, because that opens up a whole other avenue of viruses. And sometimes people just don't really understand the complexity of the internet and how the TCP/IP protocol works. And when you really delve into how networking actually functions, and when you deal with packets and how packets are transmitted over the network, then you start to realize this stuff is really, really complicated. And in that complication, there are little cubbies, little sneaky little avenues that the people that are looking to cause harm can exploit and take advantage of when all you did is turn the computer on and connect to the internet. And so because of that, when you combine all the different threats, with 300,000 new threats released online to the internet each and every day, antivirus is not your problem with Windows 7. It's not an antivirus problem. The problem is with keeping the operating system secure, making sure that files are patched, making sure that Windows requires 1,000 files to work. Just look in your System32 directory. Every one of those files has to be maintained and updated on a regular basis, because exploits are found in them regularly. So when Microsoft says we're not giving you any more Microsoft updates have nothing to do with antivirus. They are completely unrelated. And then you've got all the other programs too, as I mentioned, Adobe products, whether it's your Adobe Acrobat PDF reader or Adobe Flash, Adobe Java. Anything that's popular pretty much is a target and has to be constantly updated. There is no perfect software. The more people use something, the bigger a target it becomes. If everybody's using Linux, I assure you we'd be having this discussion. Linux is not safer because it's designed better. Linux is safer because fewer people use it, and the bad guys want to increase how much money they can make. So if you want to make a product, do you make it for this many people and make this much money? Or do you make it for this many people with the potential to make this much money? It's pretty simple stuff. So if you want to get away from all the threats, then you have something called security through obscurity by using a Mac or a Linux operating system that fewer people use, and therefore you're not as big of a target. But with regards to Windows 7, there's nothing that will secure you other than going to Windows 10, going to an operating system that is continually being updated. Windows 8 is fine. Windows 8 is going to get updated, I think, through 2023, I think. So if you're in Windows 8, you're okay, because you're getting those updates. Those updates are absolutely critical. But you've been told, do what you want to do. It affects my life in no negative or positive way Whether you choose to ignore my advice or to heed my advice makes no difference to me. I provide the information so that you can make the best decision for you and accept the consequences as a result. I have nothing to do with it. Martin Grates has contributed 99 cents. Thank you, Martin. All right. I'm kind of over talking about Windows 7. Right now, it is fully saturated across the media, and you're going to be getting pop-ups that are really annoying on your screen, and it's going to be a lot of work and a lot of time to constantly have to keep Windows 7 working. Now, Chrome said they're going to keep the browser functional, and they did that for Windows XP for about a year. And after that, certain websites wouldn't load, and it just got worse and worse and worse until it just became unusable. I expect a similar process in Windows 7. That's the best you can hope for. You're going to buy a printer, you're going to buy some tax software. Chances are your tax software will not install on Windows 7. There's a good chance. And if it does this year, it most certainly won't last next year because of the risk. You know, you're talking about social security numbers, you're talking about income, a lot of private identifiable information. You'd have to be profoundly ignorant and incredibly optimistic to be so cheap as to do your own taxes on an old computer that isn't getting updates, thinking your antivirus is going to protect you. But that's your business. It doesn't matter. If that's what you want to do, you go right ahead. Just don't come running to me asking for help when you lose everything or someone steals your identity or your computer is completely infected with ransomware. Or a dozen other things I can't think of. Because I'm just kind of tired of it. I'm just sort of like, you know what? I've been through this 8 million times. And I'm done dealing with people who think it's not going to happen to them. Best of luck to you. All right. Carey, what about Windows 10? Does Microsoft have an end date for it? No, Windows 10 will be, Microsoft said, the last operating system they ever make. And it gets updated every 6 months, and it's really important you update your Windows 10 to the latest version. Basically, every 6 months, there's a service pack is what it amounts to. And unfortunately, they should, in my opinion, Microsoft should name it 10.1, 10.2, 10.3, 10.4. We're at like 10.5 right now. Windows 10 is not the same Windows 10 it was when it came out a few years ago. It is completely different in so many ways. But they're keeping the name. That's all they're doing is they're keeping the name, and they're reissuing a major update to it once a year. That happens in the spring, and then they're updating it in the fall to sort of polish the update in the spring, and that will happen year after 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 year until Microsoft marketing decides that the Windows 10 name is getting old, which is what they had to do with Windows Vista. The Windows Vista name was so damaged there was no fixing it. They had to completely rebrand and start over again. That day may come for Windows 10, but my crystal ball doesn't see that far into the future. My Way Gaming has contributed $2. He says, what about an outdoor shed with soundproofing? No, I cannot build on my property. There's no space, and I would need heat, air conditioning, plumbing, and electricity run to that building. And there would have to be permits, and the yard I have is pretty small anyway, so there's not really any space to put it. So no, that is not an option. Building on the property is not an option. Space Lord has contributed £2. He says, I highly recommend this channel to friends. Right on, Space Lord, thank you. Jesse Kirk's contributed a link that shows Microsoft's Windows life cycle, and it's a chart. I'm sure that's the link that shows the chart of when support ends and extended support stops, and then extended support ends. Windows 7's been in extended support for quite a while. It is a 10-year-old operating system. It's 10 years old, people. What do you still have today that you had 10 years ago that's electronic? And the internet is evolving each and every day. So if you've got a computer that hasn't evolved for years, and you're putting it out there on the network that's connected to the world, with people that are going to be using the best equipment possible to hack into you, and your defense is a sharp stick, well, they've got laser-guided missiles. You enjoy your defense with your sharp stick. I got no more to talk about with that. It's just silliness at this point. It's delusion. Steve Welch contributed $2. He says, hey, it's not much, but it adds up. That is absolutely true. It absolutely does add up. And thank you, Steve. Thank you for submitting and contributing to the channel. Okay. Let's talk about, I got 600 plus people watching. We'll talk about what today's video is about. I told a story about 2-3 months ago. I had to go to a client's office where they had Windows 7 and I upgraded them all to Windows 10. They were, all but two were in-place upgrades. I did the upgrade from Windows 7 to Windows 10, which is free. There's no reason not to do it. And it's free as long as you have a legal copy of Windows 7 Home or Pro, or even Ultimate, as long as it's legal. Enterprise versions are handled by the company that provided you the enterprise version, because you're obviously their employee or you've stolen it. So either way, you've got to contact the company that owns the enterprise license for help, because that's done on a one-on-one basis with the contract with Microsoft and the corporation. Okay, so I got that out of the way. One of the issues that we ran into was the computers wouldn't see each other on the network. They wouldn't browse, it's called browsing the network. And when you want to share files and you want to share printers, it should be relatively simple, but you've got to turn the sharing on because it's off by default for security reasons. And you've got to make sure all the computers are in the same work group, real basic stuff. But even doing all of that, when browsing the network to look for other computers on the network, we'd only see like 2 out of 9 or whatever it was. And 6 of those computers, I had to sit down on each one and go through a list. Now, you can find articles online and YouTube videos detailing the multiple steps you can take to check all the little items, right? Check that this service is running, check that that service is running, make sure you've got the right work group, make sure that this is enabled and that is enabled, and make sure there's no password on the guest account, and do this and do that. And that's all well and good when you're dealing with one computer. But the problem with this client's office was, once I would go through all that on one computer, suddenly it would, through one of those things, it would fix it, and I would see that it started to appear on browsing on the other computers, but then that only fixed one computer. So for all the computers that were not appearing, I had to keep repeating this. And I'm only one person. And there's 9 or 10 computers total, and like 6 of them aren't showing up. So I have to sit down in front of all 6 of them, one at a time, obviously. I'm one person, and move around from office to office, going through this entire list. 4 out of those 6 required completely different fixes. In fact, 2 of them required updated network card drivers. And I thought to myself, there's got to be an easier way for this. To sit down here and do this is extraordinarily time consuming. It easily took me 20 to 30 minutes on each one of those machines. At times 6 machines, that's 3 hours of work. And it's not even exciting work. It's very boring. You're just going through the same steps over and over and over again until you get to that end result, and then you can stop and then move on to the next one. So a light came on, and I said, this sounds like a great opportunity for an Uncle Carey's app. So I talked to Nick Shaw over at D7X Tech, because he did such a great job on the Uncle Carey's Windows 10 Optimizer. Many of you have bought the Windows 10 Optimizer and love it, right? It's a real simple tool. It does everything for you. You just click one button and it's done. It's done quickly and it's done consistently so that you can configure every machine the same. So after talking with Nick, we developed a tool that will turn on all those services for you that need to be turned on. And it'll show you your workgroup name and your IP address and your gateway address. It'll put all that on one screen, and you can hit one button and have it just do all those things for you to turn on all the right services. And in theory, you can turn this half-an-hour job into a 20-second job, or however long it takes you to click OK, let the process run, which only takes like 2 seconds, and then reboot the machine. And then your networking and file sharing should now work. But how much do you charge for a tool like that? I wouldn't want to make people have to buy the tool for every computer on the network, because chances are, like I said, on the network I was on, more than half of the computers weren't working right. On the other hand, it is saving people a lot of time, and it's saving people a lot of money as a result of saving them time. So if somebody's paying you by the hour to do the job, and you can do the job in 10 minutes, that makes you worth more, and it means you can make more at the end of the day. Or maybe you just don't want to be aggravated. What's your time worth? So we decided we'd sell the tool for 20 bucks. But because it's brand new, because we're just introducing it now, from now until the end of January of 2020, we'll sell it for $12, and you can use it on as many computers as you want. You'll get free updates, for at least a year. You'll get free updates anytime we tune the tool or adjust the tool. You'll get free updates to that for a year, minimum. Could go longer, I'm not sure yet. We got to figure that out. And the only thing I'm asking you to do is not give it away to your friends. You know, this is a way for you to support the channel. It's a way to help you. You can use the tool as many times as you want on as many computers as you want. And I'm going to put it on the honor system. I'm not putting any serial numbers in it or activation in it because I think it just punishes honest people. And I don't want, because even though I'm asking people not to copy, you know, there's going to be people doing it anyway, right? But I'm asking you, don't worry about what the other people do. I'm asking you not to give it away. Feel free to tell people where they can buy it if they want to buy it. And if this customer that I spent 3 hours at could have had the option of buying this tool, they wouldn't have needed me, and it would have saved them several $100s. So I think it's a really good value. Let me show you how it works. So behind me, I've got the computer I just built. And I'm going to assume that the browsing's not going to work on it because I think the odds are pretty good it's not going to. But if the browsing works on this, I'll grab a laptop or something. It's not too hard to find a Windows 10 computer that doesn't browse the network properly. So this is a clean install of Windows 10. I haven't even activated it. This is a system I built yesterday. And let's fire it up and let's go to the camera 2 input so we can see the screen. And I will put myself in the corner like I do. There we go. Geez, it already booted. That was quick. On this flash drive, my utilities flash drive, I've got the utility, the custom app. I see Eddie Tuig joins us. Eddie made a very generous contribution to the channel earlier today. Thank you, Eddie. You rock, my friend. Okay, so let's get back to this. Let's go to the flash drive and let me copy the utility. You'll see there's going to be sort of this series of Uncle Carey's tools, you know. So there's Uncle Carey's Windows 10 NetFix. And we'll copy that out to the desktop. You can run it from a flash drive. I like to copy it to the desktop. Now, first thing I want to do is I want to just see if networking works on this because I honestly don't know if it's going to work. Sometimes networking works fine and other times not so much. And it could be for a number of reasons. So let's just bear with me here because this is all unscripted and I don't know what's going to happen. So when you have multiple computers, if you don't know what I'm talking about, if you have more than one computer in your house, you can share files. Not programs, you can share files like pictures, movies, data. Like you got a Word document, you want to open that Word document on the other computer in the house, you can do that. Say you've got a printer and you want both computers to print to the printer, but the only computer you could print from is the one the printer's plugged into. That's where you got to turn on printer sharing, and then anybody on your network can print to your printer. So the very basic step in networking, and this is called a peer-to-peer network where we're not dealing with a server, is that all your computers connect to your internet. You know, they go to your router, either wired or Wi-Fi, doesn't matter. Either way, they're getting to your router. When you're on your router and you browse your network, you'll see that you have this option that says network. And when I pull that up, it says network discovery is turned off. So now you got to know how to turn on network discovery. And then, you know, it says network computers and devices are not visible. Please turn it. No, this should give me a button that says go here to turn it on. It doesn't do it. Windows still has a ways to go to make it user-friendly. Oftentimes when you turn on network discovery, you find out it's still not working and you got to go through that whole list of things. You know, you can watch a whole video saying check this, check that, do this, Or here's your option. Instead of even trying to turn on network discovery and say, well, there's one more step, we can just cut right to Uncle Carey's Windows 10 NetFix tool. Watch. We'll double click on the tool. You've got to click yes. And we'll close this so you can just see what this comes up here. This says Uncle Carey's Windows 10 NetFix version 1.2. So as of January 14th, 2020, version 1.2 is current. From time to time, you'll want to click on options up here. And you only have one option is check for updates and make sure that you're up to date. All those updates are free for at least a year. Now this gives me information on my network, the IP address that's assigned to the computer from the router, the subnet address, and the gateway. The gateway is your router. So if I want to change these, I can just click on them. See how the mouse turns into a little hand? It says click to change. So if I click on that, it'll bring up the network properties and then I can, of the adapter, and I can, it'll bring up the network adapters. I can click on the network adapter, go to properties, and make any necessary changes. Now that's for people who understand networking. If you want to log into your router and check your router settings, you just click on that. It'll open a browser window so you can log into your router. So these tools are really the way Microsoft needs to make Windows. Now, all of these tools, all of the boxes that you're going to want to check are already checked for you. You don't have to worry about firewall repairs or network internet repairs just yet. Now, if you want to check everything, there should be no harm in resetting everything. That's ultimately what it's going to do. It's going to reset things back to the way they need to be for file sharing to work. Now, if you've had a computer that's been through a Windows 7 to Windows 10 upgrade, some of these settings may have been turned off during the upgrade. I don't know why Microsoft does that. But be that as it may, you've also got to make sure all your computers are on the same work group. So I can click on the work group name, and it takes me right to the system properties where I can change the computer's name, and I can rename this work group. This is the computer description. If I hit change right here, now I can change the computer's name, and I can change the work group. So to see all the computers on the same network, they'll have to be on the same work group, which by default should be work group. This is a clean install of Windows 10. And a clean install of Windows 10 is going to have file sharing disabled because it's a security precaution. Maybe you don't want people looking at the files on your hard drive. So this is going to set everything up for us. All I have to do, watch how fast this runs, I hit apply. It's got to be on a private network. So if you had selected a public network when you were setting your computer up, it disables all file sharing because obviously you wouldn't want people in a public space to have access to your data, right? And then this enabling network discovery may take a couple seconds here. I think, what did that take? 10, 15, 20 seconds at the most. And then you've got to restart for your changes to take effect. So we're going to restart the computer. This is a fast computer, as I mentioned. This is the one I built yesterday. And it's going to boot up in no time. And we're going to go repeat just what I did by clicking on the little yellow folder to browse. We'll click on network, and we'll see if we can see other computers on my network. I hope this works, or I'll be really embarrassed. Let's find out. So again, I'm going to click on network, and it's starting to propagate computers on the network. Is it going to find my server? Come on, baby. So it finds 2 desktops. And here's the other thing you've got to be aware of with Windows 10. Sometimes you have to restart your router or any other networking equipment. Because if you run this and you're not seeing everything, there's 2 things you've got to keep in mind. One is it may take a minute or 2 for other networking items to appear. I'm a little surprised my server didn't show up, but my other Windows 10 computer did show up. So that's a good sign. I know I can access the server manually. I can go down here and I can type the address of the server. Just type // and then the name of the server, and it should pop up, and it does. Well, it wasn't trying to access that. silly. So there's the public directory for the server on the network. So what I want to do is I'm going to run this tool one more time, and I'm going to repair the Windows Firewall service and set the Windows rules back to default. In fact, let's turn everything. Let's select all. This ought to be interesting. And then hit apply. And then we'll reboot, and then we'll see if the server suddenly appears in the browsing. So this is what would happen. This was driving me crazy because I would go to a client's office, and I can, if I know the name of the networking device, I can type in, / name, and then the individual items that are being shared on that device appear. But you're supposed to be able to just browse for it. You're supposed to be able to just click, 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 and not need to type it in by hand. And this has been driving me crazy. And like I said, taking a long time, way too much time to check far too many things. And if it was the same thing on all the computers, that'd be fine. But it was 4 different solutions on 6 of the computers. And this covers all of those solutions that I applied to make that happen. Let's see if I have any better luck. I don't know. Yeah. And the other issue still could be a router reboot or I might have to wait a couple minutes for the server to appear. But let's try it again. We'll go to network. It's going to search the network again. So it's just finding the computers on the network, but not the server, which is a Linux-based device. So there's still maybe something I'm missing in the tool. I don't know. I don't know if this is on me, or if I reset my router, or if I'm patient and wait and then it'll appear. I don't know yet. But this is still a world better than where I was. And if there's a piece that I'm missing, then it'll come through on a future update. This is a brand new tool, and I'm not suggesting it's perfect. It is as near to perfect as I think I can make it. And I don't know why the NAS isn't showing up. So I'm going to have to check that. So what I used to have to do, like let's say you're a client and you'd call me and you said, hi, I'm browsing my network. I'd have to go into the control panel. Well, I can just use the tool to do this. But I would go into the control panel. I got to use this keyboard. That's my problem. And then I would go to large icon view, and I would go to the network and sharing center, and I would have to verify change advanced sharing settings. So you got to go through all these steps. Make sure turn on network discovery is checked, turn on file and printer sharing, turn off password protected sharing. That's all set correctly. And that leads you then to go, okay, maybe there's an issue with a Windows service that's not running properly, because all of that checks out. So then you go and you type in services, and you've got to make sure that there's about 5 services that are turned on. And in many cases, they are not turned on the computers that I've had to work on that weren't working properly. And that's just mind-boggling why it'll be set to like automatic, but it'll say it's not running. Sorry, component services is what I want right here. And we go through the list of services for items that are related to networking, such as, let's take a quick look here. Let's just go full screen on it. Now notice the startup type on a lot of this is set to manual. We want to look for the networking stuff, which may be set to automatic, but in the status it'll say it's not running. And we want to make sure that the network discovery service is running, probably under N for network, right? Yeah, these are all running just like they're supposed to be. And then just for grins, just to see if I've bought enough time, I want to see if the server suddenly appears. This may not be my tool. This could be my router needs to be rebooted, or my NAS. I don't know. But I can't do that through the software. That's something that has to be done manually. And if I do that now, I lose you guys on my stream. So in the meantime, you can see that as far as computer to computer, Windows 10 to Windows 10, the tool works perfectly. I don't have an answer, so I'm really embarrassed by that, why this analogy NAS is not firing up. But I will assure you, if there's a tweak in the tool, or if there's a piece that I'm missing, I expect I will hear from you guys who try it, and then we will verify that and adjust the tool, modify the tool, and make an update available. So it's brand new. SMB1 is disabled by default in Windows 10, and Nick and I, we talked about that. Nick wanted to enable it. I don't want to enable SMB1. SMB1 is an old protocol for old Linux devices that Microsoft disabled a couple of updates ago from Windows 10 because it is considered a security risk. If you're so cheap that you're willing to risk your security to prevent having to replace some old Linux box, I don't want to be held liable for your poor decision making. The fact that if you have an old Linux box that is not working properly on the network and you refuse to replace it, so you're willing to trade your security for that, is not something I condone. And so Nick and I agreed. Microsoft turned SMB off for a reason. Many people will not replace a piece of hardware if it's working. Well, guess what? We're not going to help you make that work. It's not working. It's time to replace it. Your excuse, it's working, is no longer valid. The internet is a very, very dangerous place. 300,000 new threats minimum are released each and every single day. And to put old networking equipment up there is defending yourself with sharpened sticks against laser-guided missiles. I do not want to condone that thought process. I don't want to be a part of it, and I don't want to be held liable when it's not going to happen to me, happens to you, and then you want to come after me for it. So no, SMB1 should be disabled on Windows 10. You should never, ever enable it. Never. Unless you're willing to accept the risks, and you know when it happens, the person you need to sue is yourself. So I take that very seriously. So where do you get the tool from? That's what they're asking. Well, if you look at the YouTube channel, if you look at this video and you click down, you'll see that there's a link in this video, and I will take you there right now since I've got the computer hooked up to the network here. Let's close this out, and let's close this out. Whoops. Guess I need to leave one open, huh? Let's go to YouTube. And then let's go to this video. We're going to do a little inception. Where am I? Okay, here we are. We're right here. Underneath the video, there's all of these notes. See down here? And this is the link that's going to take you to get the tool. It's right underneath the video. So if we click on that, this is the website that takes you to D7X Tech, and it explains Uncle Carey's Windows 10 NetFix, what it does, and when you pay for it, all of the transaction takes place through D7X Tech. I don't have any control over your payment processing or file delivery, but what's supposed to happen is you pay via the means that D7X offers offers the types of payments that they offer, and then they make the link available to you immediately. It will immediately appear. Some people may have blockers on their screens, on their computers, that prevent that from coming up. If you have any issue, if you do not receive the automatic download immediately upon payment, you'll contact the people at D7X Tech, and they will resolve that very, very quickly. Nick is very, very good at what he does, and customer satisfaction is very important. So that's the link to the site right up there in the browser window. And I want to say that, oh, hold on, let me look in the chat here. It looks like I missed some stuff. Russ says, is this a tool for non-network savvy users? No, this is for people, well, yes and no. Yes, this tool is for non-network savvy users, but this is also a tool for people who value their time. This is not a contest over who's smarter than somebody else. And I really, really think that that frame of mind needs to be removed from our society. This idea that these are training wheels and that you're above that is really offensive. This is a tool for people who value their time. If I could have had this tool available to me when I had to go to that client's, I could have been in and out of there in less than 20 minutes. Instead, I was there over 3 hours. And if I could have paid $12, $20, if somebody made this tool available for $100, I would have bought it and I would have used it. And the fact that I can continue to use it on any number of computers, which means there's time yet to be saved. That means I can help more people in a day. That means I can make more money in a day. And that means that everything I do with regards to networking is done exactly the same. When you do it by hand and you get distracted or your mind's on something else, it's easy to skip a step and to not be consistent. Oh, did I turn that service on or didn't I? And you'll end up going back over and over and over again until you can focus and see it through. So for people who have value to their time, for people who work for a living and want to make more money in the IT world, and for people who don't understand networking at all, this tool is for you, and it's about the price of lunch for one person. So I think it's a really, really good value, and I anticipate, because this is the public release of the tool, I doubt that we nailed it perfectly. I understand there's probably going to be some little minor tweaks and adjustments we need to make to it, and all of those updates will be free for a year. So you'll always have the best tool available. And I recommend you do not run it from a flash drive. You can, but I recommend that you don't. Copy it off the flash drive onto the desktop, run it there, use it as I've demonstrated, and then do me a favor and remove it. Please don't leave my stuff around for other people to take. I would appreciate that very much, but I'm okay with you making, thousands and thousands of dollars from this tool. I'm okay with that. You keep it, it's fine. Not from selling my tool, but from using my tool and being able to help more customers in less time, which results in you making more money. And like I said, a consistency, a very reliable consistency that's undeniable in that the work that's being done is exactly the same. So that's who it's for. Just want to be clear on that. Dean O'Connell says, Carey, the issue you're having with your server not showing up happens to me on my Windows Server 2016. So yes, there may be a little piece here that I've got to tweak, but I first have to reboot the router and reboot the NAS, because if I just do that and they appear, then I know it's not my tool. But I'll do that off stream because it's going to knock me off stream otherwise. But I've tested the tool in other environments and everything's been working really good with it. Nick has tested it really well. And I want to continue to improve the tool. Like I hope that we discover there's some other thing that makes the tool better and that we can continue to polish this tool and improve upon it so that it's not just going to be what you see today. This is a brand new tool. It's never been released to the public before. And I expect that we can add more to it to make it even more valuable, but it won't cost you any more money. Those upgrades will be free for everybody for a minimum of 1 year, potentially well beyond that. Nick and I have to discuss it. With regards to Windows 7 security, let's go back up here, and I'm going to go to PCWorld.com. And this is big news, guys. This is the kind of security stuff that involves the United States government discussing, because it's that severe of a security update. And because Windows is in use by so many governmental agencies and important government contractors and whatnot. The NSA has actually had a meeting about this. Right here it says, a major bug may be disclosed the same day Windows 7 loses support. And if we click on that link, and you'll see the link up here at the top of the page, it's going to explain to you about a friend of the channel, Brian Krebs, who's a security researcher and somebody I've talked about in the past, recently issued a warning that a nasty bug may be patched today, the day that Windows 7 is expected to expire, and it appears Microsoft will have more to share later today. Microsoft won't talk about security updates specifically until after they've been released for security reasons. And if you're interested in this story, I'll be sure to put a link in the show notes. But in the meantime, just go to pcworld.com. If you're watching the video today or tomorrow, it's going to be right up in the headlines. Beyond January 16th, you'll probably have to manually type the link in. So I'll be sure to add it in the video notes. But it's a pretty major story. They're also talking about how Cooler Master has improved the Hyper 212 Evo, but it still looks like junk to me. It's going to cover up any RGB RAM you've got, so you're not going to be able to see it. The cooler's too big, it's too heavy. They made the installation a little easier. The price is good. The fans are going to be a pain. So it looks like they're trying to copy Scythe in a lot of ways. I still think the Scythe cooler is superior. It's a little bit more money, but I think it's worth $10 more for the Scythe cooler because it won't cover your RGB RAM. You don't have to worry about the height of your RAM, which you will have to do. Furthermore, if you put that Evo 212 in the new version of it and you have to diagnose your RAM, you won't be able to take RAM out. The cooler covers it. So the cooler will have to come off, then you can take a RAM module out, then you can put your cooler back, and then you can test it. And then if the test passes, then you can take the cooler back off, take the other RAM module out, put the other one you took out back in, put the cooler back on. It's stupid. I don't know who these people are at Cooler Master that think that this was an improvement on the design, but I am strongly opposed to it. And I recommend if you're going to buy a Tower Air cooler, I'm recommending the Mugen 5, and I've yet to see anybody sell an equivalent cooler for less money. And it's super easy to install. And I just need them to pay me to say that and everything will be great, right? But that's what I recommend to all my customers. Okay, so I think I might have missed some contributions. Let me go back through and take a look. My company Tech has contributed $2 and says, another tool in my toolbox. Right on, thank you. Jeremy Kramer contributed $12. He says, that's a great tool, Carey. Cheers to you and it. And what would be the purpose of choosing faster processor fan speeds? What? You're gonna have to rephrase that question. I'm not sure I understand. You're talking about the size of a radiator and nothing about fan speeds and radiator size are two entirely different things. But the bigger the radiator is, the more cooling it's going to do. Thank you for the support and contribution. Cosmo contributed $9.99 and said, this is for Jimmy and Lyle. My Way Gaming contributed $2. Wilhelm Gordon has contributed $4.99. Timothy Wilkinson's contributed $2.99. And I think that catches me up. Basically, to get back on that whole radiator thing, radiators are there to cool the liquid down. That's pulling the heat off of the CPU. A normal CPU that's being used in the way that it was engineered does not need a liquid cooler. It's only when you're trying to push a CPU beyond past the point of its engineering design that you start drawing more voltage and more heat, which ultimately results in a computer that's not reliable and typically is much louder because the fans have to run faster. So if we can give that fluid, if we can make that CPU cool through fluid instead of through air, then we've got to cool that fluid down as it makes a loop around. It gets hot, gets pushed around through there. It's just like a car radiator. If you put a bigger radiator on your car, your engine's going to run cooler. Put a piece of cardboard in front of your car radiator, and when you overheat and blow your engine, you'll know you shouldn't do that. That would be effectively like making your radiator too small by putting a piece of cardboard in front of it. So for extreme overclockers and hobbyists and enthusiasts with nothing else better to do but to spend a lot of money and waste a lot of time trying to eke out an extra 100 megahertz out of their 5,000 megahertz processor, because having 100 more, hertz, that's going to really make a difference. These are extremist activities like climbing Mount Everest. You might consider yourself a hiker, but when you're taking advice from somebody who's reaching the summit of Mount Everest, you're probably going to find their advice and tools and equipment is over the top expensive and overkill for any purpose that you would have as a normal hiker. So people that are normal computer users don't need any of this stuff. This is for extremists, and these extremists have extra time and extra money. Now, if you have extra time and extra money and you're interested in it, there's plenty of resources online that can help take your money, help guide you through the educational process that bears absolutely no benefit on your resume to any corporate entity. If that's how you want to spend your time, be my guest, but it's not practical, and I try to limit what I do here to being practical. So if you have a big case that'll fit a big 360 millimeter radiator, it won't hurt you to have it unless it leaks or the pump dies or you can't eat for a month because you had to pay for it. But other than that, it's great. John Walters contributed €5. He goes, here's for your weekly Coke consumption or a pint of Guinness. Thank you, John. Thomas X. Brusvin has contributed 50 Norwegian krona. He says, I bought the tool to support you. Thanks, guys. We got to make sure these guys are moderators in here. We got to turn some more people blue today, if they're not already. Thank you. I would be very interested to hear from people who have purchased the NetFix tool, that if it doesn't fix the browsing issues on your network, reach out to me and let me know, because I'd like to take a look at it and determine, like I said, 2 of the computers that I worked on had out-of-date network card drivers. So do be sure and update your network card drivers to whatever network card you've got. Don't trust Windows Update to always give you the latest and greatest, at least as far as the network card drivers are concerned. You can go to the manufacturer of the network card or the manufacturer of your motherboard or your laptop and go to your driver section and download the latest one. And if that doesn't help, at that point, reach out to me, because if there's anything I can do to refine the tool, I have to encounter the situation, verify that it's something that will affect enough people to make that worthwhile. You know, if it's just something that happened to you because you ran some weird piece of software 6 months ago that did that, I'm not worried about changing the tool because it's not really going to impact very many people. But if it's something like we missed to turn a service on, that's critical, and I need to make sure that that's implemented in an update, if that's the case. So do let me know what your experience is with the tool. I'm excited to hear feedback on it. Bruce says, were you impressed with that liquid cooler you put on the 9900? So the liquid cooler was put on there for RGB lighting purposes. It was not put on to make the CPU cooler. It was very impressive how cool that it made the CPU. It was very impressive. What difference did it make in real life? None. The computer doesn't run any faster. The computer's not able to accomplish more in less time. The computer is not any more reliable. It did absolutely nothing but add some lights that the customer wanted. That's all it did. And the only reason it was installed, rather than just putting fans with lights, the reason I put the liquid cooler on is Silverstone recently entered the market of all-in-one liquid coolers. And they said, if we send you one, would you evaluate it? And I said, absolutely, I'd be happy to. I'd be curious how it installs, how loud is it, how well does it seem constructed. It doesn't make any point to see how much I can overclock, because that's all silicon lottery. You can have 2 chips that are bought at the same place at the same time that are exactly the same, but it turns out one can be overclocked further than the other one. That's normal, and it's no indication that you've got a better cooler. So the reason that cooler was used is it was sent to me, same with the case. The Be Quiet Pure Base 500 windowed case is not a case I normally use. Folks at Be Quiet reached out to me and asked if I would evaluate it. I said, be happy to evaluate it. But why use a case with a window if you're not going to have lights? You know what I mean? What's the point? And this customer wanted something that had a lot of lights. They didn't even care how fast the computer was. They just wanted, the more lights, the better. They want lights on the keyboard, lights on the mouse. That's what's important to this customer, and so that's what I delivered. The fact that the CPU was running cool was very impressive, very impressive. But so what? What has that got to do with anything? That matters only to people that are overclocking and experimenting with how hard they can push the computer before they kill it, or cause the machine to constantly reboot or a blue screen, which is very annoying when you're trying to get something done and you lose everything you've done. These people enjoy that. I'm not one of those people. It's just not practical. No corporate America, no office in the corporate world will have their support staff in IT replacing or installing RGB or liquid coolers on their desktop workstations for their employees. It's not going to happen. There might be a couple out there, but it's very unusual. And if you want to get into a career in IT and you want to take this job seriously, those skills of installing liquid coolers or configuring RGB or overclocking or delitting, none of that has any value. In fact, that's the kind of stuff that will get you fired if you're caught doing it in most corporate offices in the world. So this is really just a hobbyist activity for people who have money they want to spend and have time they want to squander to look at numbers. It's just looking at numbers. I got a bigger number than I got before. Celebrate, crack the champagne. In the meantime, in 6 months, another chip will come out that's going to do that stock. So your accomplishment is short-lived. So I really have a hard time with it. Now, back in the old days, it made sense to overclock because you could really make a difference in performance. Getting a 10 or a 15% performance difference in exchange for the amount of money and the amount of time, you must have a lot more time and a lot more money than me if that's what you do. But I'm not insulting it. I just don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me. If you want to do it, that's fine. But you're basically talking to a lion, asking him if he's considered being a vegetarian. And the lion is trying to tell you, I'm a lion. So you don't like vegetables? I'm a lion. Think about who you're asking. Wish I was a lion. Cracked myself up. What's up, Lyle? I said Lyle. I said lion. That's funny. Thought I was calling him. Nighthawk wants to know, how do I erase my old SSD to use as extra storage? Well, you know what I would do if I were you, Nighthawk? I'd go looking at my Quick Tips channel because, I got videos on that. You could even look on this channel. But on the Quick Tips channel, I have videos that explain all that. So, for example, if I wanted to know how to, erase an old hard drive and reset it, I would just go to YouTube right up here. And I would go to search. This is what I would do. And I would type in, let's see, Carey Holzman reset hard drive. I don't know, let's see what that pulls up. Quick tips, how to factory, look at the first link, how to factory reset a hard disk drive. This process is the same regardless if it's a solid state drive and an NVMe drive and SATA or IDE, a mechanical drive, a flash drive. It's the same process. And if you watch that video, it will detail the entire steps that you're looking for, and you can follow along and go click by click. So I get a lot of the same questions over and over, and I'm doing my best to have a library that I can point people to. But ideally, people will feed themselves and be able to locate the information they're looking for. Just put the name Carey Holzman in front of your query, even in Google, and you're more than likely able to find your answer right up in the top search results if I made a video on it. So I'm glad you asked your question, because it gives me an opportunity to demonstrate how this works, because I very much want you to be able to be self-sufficient. And if I get enough questions on other topics that I haven't made videos on, it gives me ideas, for what to make a video on. So anyway, that is, when did they post that? 2 years ago? A year and a half ago. And then if you like these short videos, I have a quick tips channel. So again, we could go up here and just type Carey Holzman. Let's do computer quick tips. And what's great about the computer quick tips is there's probably answers to questions you haven't thought to ask yet. So you can get ahead of the curve. It's supposed to be called Computer Quick Tips. See that right down here it says Carey Holzman, so that's coming from the main channel. It's not coming from the other channel for some reason. But the Quick Tips channel is listed in other videos. Like if I click on yesterday's, well here, let's just click on this channel, this video, like pretty much almost any of my videos except for today's. When you look at the video notes, it says here's a link to Computer Quick Tips. It's right there in the video notes. And then when that channel comes up, eventually, here it is, we'll hit the videos button, and we can see all these little videos that are just a few minutes long. 5 minutes, 4 minutes, they're all pretty short. There's a couple over 10 minutes, but they're few and far between. And it just goes on and on and on with a bunch of short videos to help answer the most common questions I get. And that's what that is for. Cosmo says, I need more cooking segments. We'll do some more when I have time, but I'm so busy right now. Thank you, though. I appreciate that. Carlos wants to know where you can get that plastic standoff you use on the motherboard. So those were all from the 90s. I just have them laying around. You really don't need them. But I suppose if I was going to buy them, I would probably, again, what would Carey do? I would back to the browser, and I would go to Amazon, and then I would type up here, I would type in plastic motherboard standoff. And let's see if I see any in here. This is them right here, I think. Let's say that's it. These are 4mm. I'm not quite sure what size I use. They're just motherboard standoffs. These look like them. What else? But that's how I would find them. That's what I would do. But you don't need them. They're completely unnecessary. I just use them because I have them. It's one way of getting rid of them without throwing them away. Let's see what other questions we've got. Search John Lovitz. Don't make me do it. I'll do it. Let's do it. I shouldn't have closed this. I might as well just keep it open on YouTube today, because apparently that's what I'll be doing today. YouTube.com. We'll go down here and we'll type in Carey Holzman, John Lovitz. There he is. Yes, John Lovitz responded and said that he is not me and I am not him. That's hilarious. If you haven't seen it, John Lovitz, he's the best. Gotta love that guy. He really puts the love in Lovitz. All right. This is enough silliness. Carlos says, I'm doing the same Wall Street build. Again, you don't need that. I even said it when every time I put that plastic standoff in, I say, you don't need this. This is completely unnecessary. The only reason I do it, I continue to say, is because I have a lot of them left over from the 1990s, and I've got them, so why not use them? If you don't have them, you can buy them if you feel like you need it, but you don't need it. If it was required, Gigabyte would have included it in the box. And I talked to Gigabyte about this. They're the only manufacturer that adds that extra mounting hole that I've ever seen in my life. And they told me, well, just use a little plastic standoff. And I said, well, if it's so easy, why don't you give me one? Because they're not common anymore. They were required to install motherboards in the 90s, so I have a lot of them. And rather than throw them in the trash, I can reuse them in modern computers for this reason, though they are they're not at all necessary. Absolutely not necessary. You're just wasting your money. Past Me has contributed €5, and he says, just because. Thank you, Past Me. I appreciate that. How are we doing on time? I got about 20 minutes. Any final questions? Let's wrap it up. I've got to cut this short because I got a late start today, and I've got a really big build coming up. But first, I have to finish that computer back there later tonight. I've got to get these parts or the equivalent parts moved into the Be Quiet Pure Base 500 case. And then I got to get those two computers shipped out of here. Then I can start the AMD 3950X build next. And I'm really excited about this build because that is going to utilize the Be Quiet Pure Base 600. And I've got both the windowed and non-windowed version of that case. The windowed version has been sent to me from the folks at Be Quiet. The non-windowed version was sent to me from a viewer named Michael, who generously contributed to the channel. And I can put those side by side and compare them to the 500. The 600 is a little bigger. I think there's a 700. Each iteration is just a little bit bigger, a little bit. And because of the complexity, it was not obvious. It was not intuitive on how to install that Silverstone all-in-one liquid cooler I was talking about. I've asked them to send me another one so I can make a video within a video, which will be how to install the Silverstone PF240 liquid cooler, which can be cut in and of itself as its own little quick tip video, because the documentation was severely lacking and I really, really struggled to get that all-in-one cooler installed. So I'm going to use that all-in-one cooler for the purpose of making a how-to video, and because, again, we've got a windowed case, this cooler has RGB lighting, and it will more than adequately cool the 3950X. We're not going to overclock it or anything like that. And it'll add nice, pretty colors to the case, and Silverstone has sent it to me in exchange for me using it. Good deal. I'll also use the Trident Royal Z RGB RAM. Again, I'm not an RGB fan, but the case has a window. That's what people want. We'll give people what they want. We'll utilize a PCI Express 4, Gen 4, Crucial. Is it Crucial? No, it's a Corsair MP600 2 terabyte solid state drive, which should do like 5,000 megabytes a second. We'll see. We're going to throw Windows 10 Pro on it, of course. And Be Quiet is supposed to have a power supply on the way that they'd like me to use in the build. So I don't know what it is. It'll be a box from Be Quiet. That's all I know at this point. And whatever they send me is what I'm going to use. Now that build is a project build for the channel. Nobody has ordered this. Normally what you see me do is build what customers order. What that results in is a lot of very practical builds. There's not a whole lot of cutting edge stuff here on this channel because nobody's ordering that stuff and having me build it. A lot of people who are at that level do it themselves, understandably. But because contributions were so good in December, and I've promised you I'm using all the money that comes in from contributions to enhance the channel. So I've got 3 of the 4K cameras now. I'm only utilizing one still because I've been so busy. I haven't had time to get the other one set up. But I went ahead and bought these parts for the AMD 3950 build because I know a lot of people are interested in it. I know a lot of the parts I'm putting in it in general, a lot of people are interested in the individual parts. And then I will offer that system for sale at cost. I won't make any money on it. And with the money I get back, I hope to repeat this process and buy other equipment needed to make other videos I think will get very big views, maybe get me some new subscribers, and get you guys content that's a little more cutting edge, that perhaps isn't practical, it isn't something you can afford or are likely to do, but something you want to watch because you find that interesting or entertaining. I'm willing to endure a little bit of that. I still have real work to do. And I'm genuinely curious how the 3950 is going to perform. Shortly thereafter, I will do the Xenos build using the best from Intel on the consumer side, which is the 9900 KS. These will mostly be built within a week or two apart from each other. So it'll be mostly AMD's best versus Intel's best. And on the Intel side, I think we're going to use a Kraken X62 cooler in the Xenos G3 case with the G.Skill Royal Z RAM again. There'll be a Samsung 970 Evo Plus. Maybe I'll put a second one in to try RAID 0. This motherboard is a Maximus 11 Gene. It's like a $400 motherboard from Asus. It's all got to be micro ATX to fit into the Xenos case. And the Xenos even had a custom part made so we can put a liquid cooler in it, which I cannot wait to show you. It's never been done before. So the only place you'll be able to watch this content or see this case with these parts is only right here. No place. And the internet's a big place. And there's a lot of videos just here on YouTube. There is no other video that will have, like if you look for the Xenos case, I think there's one video and it's very generic. The video I'm making will be to my level of detail, and it's going to have a fabricated piece that's going to change the look of the case a little bit so we can accommodate that X62 Kraken. It's a 280 millimeter cooler. It's a big cooler. And that's going to have, so on the AMD side, we'll have the RTX 2080 graphics card. And on the Xenos Intel side, we'll have the RTX 2080 Ti. Now, the Xenos build, when it's done, will be about $6,000. You've got to be aware that the video card is $1,200 on its own, if you can even find this video card. And the case is $1,900. So just those two parts is half the cost of the build, more than half. On the AMD side, I went with an $800 RTX 2080, which is, you can buy those all day long, and a little less extreme because, I'm not made of money. If I could just buy 2080 Ti's all day and put them in every build, why wouldn't I? But I'm not putting like a Quadro. Look, you can get a Titan X, an RTX, what is it, a Titan X, for $2,400 and go 15% faster than a 2080 Ti. Or you can buy a Quadro, is it a Quadro 8000? Or is it a Quadro 4000? That's a $10,000 card. But the good news is, because it's like a year old already, its value is only $5,400. So we could buy 2 of those and put those in SLI for just about $11,000. Yeah, not going to happen. I'm not dropping $5,500 or $5,400 on a graphics card. In fact, just looking at the price of a Titan X at $2,400, $2,500, man, there's some people with money out there because people are buying them. It'll say out of stock. Like, really, you're out of stock? That many people bought those? I thought a 2080 Ti was expensive. So go look at the Quadros, go look at the Titans, and then come back and revisit if that 2080 Ti is really all that much money. It doesn't seem so bad anymore. Anyway, it's going to be a fantastic couple of builds coming up. And I intend on keeping the Xenos build, and I intend on selling the AMD build. But we'll see what reality turns out to, what my intentions are and what happens could be two entirely different things. We'll see. But I'm really excited, if you can't tell. I can't wait to get building on those. Zero Core says I'm talking about a Quadro 8000. Thank you. Yeah, so the Quadro 8000, here, you know what? I'm just curious. Let's take a look at what the going prices are in this so you guys can know that I'm not exaggerating. Let's go to Amazon and look these prices up. So first we'll look up a Titan X. Here we go, $24.52. And look at all the ratings. Like, all these people bought them. And then some. And then let's look up the Quadro 8000. Oh, it's a little more than I thought. $5,500 and $5,534. It's not much to look at. No RGB on there, folks. But this is for people that actually do work with their graphics cards. These are for it wouldn't be uncommon for, like, I talked to a guy that they use these in an offshore drilling rig, and it maps the surface of the ocean floor in real time. That requires an intense amount of processing power. That graphics card is insane. Probably not going to make your games play any faster, though. But if you were rendering out the latest Pixar movie, you'd probably want a few of those. You wonder why movies cost millions of dollars to make? They're not messing around with the stuff you got at home. Anyway, yeah, I'm not exaggerating. That's what I'm talking about. So suddenly, if you're looking for, in the Xenos case, because it's got very limited airflow, I needed a blower style 2080 Ti, and they just don't seem to be made anymore. They're very difficult to find. So the blower style is just like this right here, where it's got the fan here, and it's enclosed, and it's going to push the air out the back of the card. That's a blower style card. And you can see here it's $1,300 for this one, and then they charge sales taxes, another $120 in sales tax for that. And that's if you can find them. I've ordered 3 of these, and all 3 refunded my money, saying that they didn't have it in stock, that their inventory was reported incorrectly. So I ended up going to PNY. Is PNY listed in here? It's got to be a blower style. So this is not a blower style. This one is. This one isn't. This one isn't. This one isn't. They're very difficult to find. Here's the PNY. Look, there's none available for sale on Amazon. You'd have to buy it from a third party. And that, how much is that? Used, $1,100. Yeah. You really got to like your game to invest that kind of money. I build computers that don't cost this much money for the whole computer. So I am making an exception because, as I mentioned, contributions throughout December were very generous and have made this possible. Andrew Brockington says, I like your work. Keep it up. Hey, thank you, Andrew. Where are we at on time? 10 minutes, guys. 10 minutes. Any final questions? I'll do my best to provide you guys some answers or directions that you can find your answer. KCC has contributed $5. Thank you, Casey. Someone in the chat whose name I can't pronounce wants to know if I'm going to be reviewing any 2.5 and 3.5 inch external cases. No. As far as I'm concerned, that technology is dead. That would imply you're using a mechanical drive. So I'm done with the mechanical drives. If I'm going to use them, they'll be in my NAS. Other than that, I don't use them. Or I buy, the little external laptop drives, but they're not just the cases. They're already designed for that. The drive is already in there. It's all enclosed. You can't do anything with it. And with regards to a solid state drive is in its own case. So all you have to do is plug a $4 cable onto it to convert the SATA to USB. You don't have to buy an enclosure. You just have to buy the little converter cable. You're done. So no, there's no point in reviewing that stuff. This isn't 10 years ago. So either buy the Western Digital the Seagate Passport or the Western Digital Elements, which are the little laptop drives already enclosed. Go with a solid state 2.5-inch drive, which again is already enclosed, and just buy the $4 or $5 USB to SATA cable. You're done. And if you need large amounts of capacity on an external drive, you have to go mechanical, but I suggest a RAID array, so you're getting that data replicated, even though it's not truly backed up. At least it's a replication if the data drive dies, one of the drives dies. I use this analogy NAS, like a 218 plus. Throw two 10 terabyte, two 12 terabyte, two 14 terabyte drives in it. Tell one drive to mirror the other one. And on a gigabit network, I can move the data at about 110 megabytes a second, which is pretty slow compared to what I'm used to, but it's not as slow as these external drives through, especially if you plug it into USB too. Ugh, good luck. Good luck with that. And the bigger the storage drive is, the more data you're copying through USB, you're going to be a while. Do you spend more time fixing software or hardware issues? Here lately, it's been hardware. Yeah, mostly hardware. Windows is so good, Windows 10 is so good at fixing itself. It's pretty rare I run into software issues unless it's related to networking. That's probably the most common. Something about the networking, something isn't working. I'm not getting the network speed I'm supposed to get. I'm not seeing something. I can't print to something. Those are very, very common. Ronald Hanbrick contributed $2. Thank you for that. Carey, have you ever had to flash a VBIOS? If I have, you'd see it here. Irving in France watches this from France. He says, how do you use SMB 2 or 3? It's already there. You don't do anything special. If you're plugging in something on your network that requires it, it's already there and it just works. SM1 has been disabled, so if you want to undo that security precaution and put SMB1 on, I won't tell you how to do it because I think that would be like explaining to somebody how to hurt themselves, and I'm not going to do that. Let's see if I missed any questions here. LRCX wants to know, is it safe to flash your BIOS? You see me flash a BIOS. Have I ever said it wasn't safe? Why do you think you have an exception? Of course. If you follow the steps to the letter of detail in the way that I explain it, then you can expect the same results. If you skip through my videos, if you don't listen or pay attention, then your results may vary. But I can guarantee you one of the benefits of filming live, unedited, and unscripted is that you know, without a doubt, that if you do exactly everything the way I do it, that you should get the same results I get. And if there's ever a caveat to that, I will always say, unless this or unless that. If I didn't say it, then there's no exception. And you know why I do that? So I don't have 8 million questions coming at me. Well, what if I stand on my left foot? What if I stand on my right foot? Well, what if I close my eyes? Well, what if I turn to the left? Well, what if I'm on that? What if I'm on that? You can assume that all of those questions are completely unnecessary. Otherwise, I would have addressed them. But ultimately, whatever decision you make is your own. And if you flash your BIOS and it has a problem, oh well. Basically, if you brought your system to me in the condition it was in, it would not leave here without a BIOS update. And when I flash it, I take responsibility for it. If you flash it, you take responsibility for it. Don't ask me to take responsibility for what you're doing. I'm not doing that here. I never will. You make your decision. But if you do it exactly the way I show it, then you should expect exactly the same results. So I hope I'm clear on that. Asking me questions doesn't make it any safer. It doesn't make you do it any better. Ultimately, it's up to you on what you choose to do, and your results will be a direct reflection of that. Hugh Wong has contributed $2. He says, fantastic, a 3950X finally. What do you mean finally? As far as I know, the 3950X only became available for sale last week or 2 weeks ago, because I've looked for it and it has just been a pre-order only. So I don't know if they came out earlier and sold out or if they just now hit the market. But I mean, this is brand new tech. This is brand new tech. I don't think there's anything finally about that, but thank you for the contribution. Thomas Robinson had contributed £2, and Brendan Looney also contributed £2. I see D7X Tech joining us in the chat. Why is D7X Tech not a moderator? Let's fix that. If you guys have any questions about the purchase of D7X Tech, Nick is here in the chat room with us right now as D7X Tech, and you can talk directly to him about that. What kind of mobile phones do you recommend? I don't recommend mobile phones. That's not my business. Glenn Davies contributed $2 and says universal standoff positions on boards and cases. Yeah, well, everybody is on board with that except Gigabyte for some reason. But again, it doesn't matter. It'll just be an empty hole. You don't have to fill it. Irving says, it's bedtime for me. Have a nice evening and a night to all of you. Hey, Irving, thanks for joining us today, and thanks for your contribution and your support of the channel. I appreciate that very much. Fred Parkinson says, Carey, I appreciate all the valuable information and technical insights you provide on your channel. I especially like the unscripted nature of your live streams. Thanks, Fred. See that guy? He gets it. Fred gets it. Thanks, Fred. Thank you. Glenn Davies contributed $2 Australian. He says, fourth contribution. Thanks for another fabulous show. Hey, thank you, Glenn. Thanks for, again, all of your support as well. Aaron Armstrong says, a corrupted DNS cache can stop users from using the internet. Well, that's true. It would be good to add ipconfig/flush DNS to NetFix. That's a very good point, Aaron. And hopefully Nick is watching this now and is listening and can make a little note that we can add. That's a great idea. Thank you for the suggestion. Bradley wants to know, do you think a data cap on the internet nowadays is unnecessary? Not if you're an ISP and you want to make money. Nobody ever has enough money. And if your internet service provider can find another way to charge you another $5 or $10, then it's necessary for them to do that so that they can have more money. So it depends who you ask. As far as the internet service providers, they'll say, well, we're going to do it because everybody else is doing it. Don't get mad at us for charging you an overage fee. We're not the only ones doing it. Yes, it's completely unnecessary. It is a very cheap, when I say cheap, it's a very lowbrow way to take advantage of your customers and to show your customers a big middle finger and how much you appreciate their business by nickel and diming them. I hope it is, they'll This only happens because most of us, at least here in the United States, we don't have a choice when it comes to internet. Where I live, I can either have cable from Cox Communications, or I can have DSL from CenturyLink, or I can get satellite. DSL in my neighborhood, maximum speed is 1.5 megabits. Yeah, megabits. That's 10 times faster than dial-up. My internet through Cox Communication is a gig down and 300 up, or something like that. No, 35 up and 1,000 down, which is like 10,000 times faster than dial-up. So there's really no competition. Satellite's very slow and expensive, and if it's a cloudy day, you may not have a connection, or it could be spotty. So until, like Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos gets all their low orbit satellites to get Wi-Fi that way, and we'll see what the latency is with that. But when there starts to be competition, then these companies will start to lower their prices. When cell phones first came out, you paid per minute to talk on them. You'll even see disclaimers, text messaging rates may apply. There are people out there that still pay for text messages. Like, that's all free now. That's a call. There used to be long distance phone calls. You used to have to pay per minute depending on how far the call was. So if I was in Arizona and I was calling New York, that was more money per minute than calling across town. But even calling across town was considered a local long distance call. And the longer you were on the phone, the more it cost you. And they gouged people. You weren't even allowed to own a telephone. You could only rent them. So if you plugged anything into the phone company's outlet in your house that was not authorized by them to be on their phone network, you could get in deep trouble. I don't know anybody who really did. But yeah, essentially what they were saying is you could plug some other manufacturer's device that claims to be a phone into our network and take everybody down because you're attaching to our network. And this is the 1970s, 1980s. And you can see through competition, through cell phone companies and multiple cell phone companies, prices. It used to just be rich people who had cell phones in the 80s. If you saw a guy with a cell phone, that guy had money. It's like walking around with a Rolex. And you knew every minute that guy was on the phone, the money was adding up. Well, that's where the internet is on high speed, where we are today. And until more companies start to offer it, so these companies don't have monopolies as they do now, then they can charge whatever they want. So they're taking advantage of that. Is it necessary? If you ask them, they'll say yes, we like money. The more of it we have, the better off we are in the future. So, that's how that works. And Past Me has contributed €2. Sharon says, I was not rich in the 80s. I'm not rich now. What's your point? Luke Greedy says, it's snowing again. Luke's out there in Vermont. I bet that's pretty, though. And I bet it's clean. I bet you go outside, smell the air, and it's pure and crisp. And not all polluted and nasty and like Phoenix. That's some good dust and carbon monoxide. Let me get a little bit more of that. Mark Drope Sr. Why is Mark not a moderator? Let's make Mark a moderator. He says, I just bought your wonderful tool, Carey. Thank you. Thank you, Mark. Glenn says, a spoiler alert, Carey does have a script for these broadcasts. It's 10,000 pages long, and he has anticipated all questions daily from an average of 800 plus viewers. Or maybe the viewers are planted, and I tell them, okay, read me this question. D7X is in America, isn't he? Yes, he is in America. He's in the United States. He's in North America, specifically, the United States of America. He's not in South America. He's not in Central America. Let's just be clear on this. D7, so Nick says ipconfig/flush DNS is already in the NetFix tool, and it's on the reset networking interface option. Look at you, Nick. He's like, been there, done that, next, love it. But still, I hope we do have other suggestions that we hadn't thought of so we can continue to polish and enhance the value of this tool. Okay, guys, it is a little after 5, so that's going to be it for me for today. Thank you so much for joining us on this live broadcast today. And I think I got everybody's question covered. I hope that while I'm offline, that you guys will continue, if interested, to look at that Quick Tips channel and do searches with my name in front if you want my opinion or the way that I explain things on certain topics. But also know that the internet's a big, big place, not only just here on YouTube. There's some other fantastic content creators. Don't be afraid to Google your question and look for official sources for information. Like Wikipedia often has very good information. Yes, it can be manipulated and sometimes people mess around with it. For the most part, you can pretty well count on it. And then, of course, always look for verification of that information from at least 2 different reputable sources. I want you to consider when you're getting information from the internet, whether it's YouTube or it's the browser, the web, or it's a forum. I want you to consider where the information came from. Was the post in a forum from an official company representative, or was it from some guy who isn't bold enough to even use his own real name? If somebody's not bold enough to use their own real name, I wouldn't consider anything they had to say as being worth consideration. It's just not worth it. That's just me. Also, when you're paying somebody for information, you should expect that the information you're getting is 100% accurate, but you always have a recourse when it comes to paying for something, and that is to call your credit card company and demand a refund, right? So what you're getting for free often comes at a cost you're not aware of, and it means you got to do a little bit more of your own work to verify the information that's being provided. I would expect you to verify everything I am telling you. This is unscripted. Sometimes I do misspeak. Sometimes I misunderstand. And so, and sometimes, yes, sometimes I'll make a mistake. So it's important that you even verify things I tell you. Find another reputable source that's basically saying the same thing. Or if you find a reputable source or multiple sources that are saying something completely different, you might want to reach out to me and ask me for clarification. And if it's something I need to adjust, I'll make that adjustment. So in the meantime, again, thank you to everybody for joining today. I hope that this network tool is going to make people's lives so much easier. I hope it'll make you more productive. If you're in business or you're thinking of going in business, this is absolutely a critical tool in your toolbox because it's going to make your life so much easier. You're going to get so much more done so much faster, and it's always going to be done exactly the same way every time in a fraction of the amount of time it would take you to do it by hand. And ultimately, that makes you better tech from the eyes of the customer. You're going to save your customer money, and you can, in theory, help more customers in the same amount of time, at least with networking problems. And I want to give a shout out to everybody who's contributed during today's live stream. So let me give all these generous folks a shout out here. Past Me has contributed €2 and says Windows 10, Uncle Carey's Windows 10 NetFix is a very nice tool. Thank you. Past Me also contributed again €2. Glenn Davies gave us like 4 or 5 contributions today. Thank you, Glenn. Ronald Hambrick and KCC and Hugh Wong and Thomas Robinson. Brendan Looney. Cogjin contributed £5. He says, I came, I saw, I bought it. Right on, thank you. Another contribution from Hugh. And Mervyn Jordan contributed $5. He says, prior to doing my first build, your videos taught me how to change a motherboard, CPU, power supply, and RAM, and a 12-year-old Vista PC with confidence. Thank you. Right on, Mervin. I'm so glad my videos are useful to people. I really am. Mark Drope Sr., thank you for your contributions. And John Walter contributed €5. Thank you to Thomas X. Brusveen, watching us apparently from Norway. My Company Tech, Jeremy Kramer, Cosmo, My Way Gaming, Wilhelm Gordon, Timothy Wilkinson, Steve Welch, Space Lord, Martin Grace, and Jesse Kirk, and Brendan Looney. Thank you guys again for all the support. Help keep me sponsor free, so I'm not out here shilling products from some paid corporate sponsor. And your contributions help to make sure that all the information that you're getting from me, if I'm endorsing a product, it's because I truly love the product, not because I'm being paid to say it. And your contributions enable me to maintain that independence and also make more videos in better quality more often. And I would be remiss if I didn't thank Nick Shaw over at D7X Tech. He is an absolute pleasure to collaborate with. And I anticipate we're going to have a lot of Uncle Carey's tools coming up over the next, well, let's say 2020 should be an exciting year. And before long, hopefully, we'll have a little flash drive filled with little tools. And the reason I know who Nick Shaw is to begin with is he makes a fantastic tool already for technicians. This is really for techs. And it's there to help you acquire all the asset information about the machine, its current state, and to do tweaks and tips and stuff. And the D7X tool, the main tool, like, in fact, let's do this. Let me go back. I was getting ready to wrap this up, and I've got myself started. But I feel this is really important. Let's go over to d7xtech.com, and let me show you. d7xtech.com. Now, if you're a technician, you can appreciate what I'm about to show you because Nick has some tools that you're going to wonder how you've been able to live without. So looking right here at the main page, D7X is the main tool. That's the main sort of everything's in one basket kind of tool. And you can set it for automation. You just push a button and have it do a sequence of things that you like to do to your customers' computers for maintenance. You can customize the tool if you need it to add to do certain things that it doesn't already do. And he's also got this Crypto Prevent, which is an anti-malware tool. But more importantly, look at here under All Software and look at all the stuff he's got. He's got some really cool stuff. And some of these tools are free. You ever try and get rid of a virus and you can't because it's running in the background, you can't shut it down? Kill them all, kill them all. It's a real simple tool that does an amazing thing when you need it to do. More free tech tools. Right here, a bunch of free technical tools, and we can scroll down and look at all this. Look at all these free tools. So you guys check this stuff out. Try it out. Here's what I can tell you for sure. These are quality tools that will not hurt your machine. They don't come with any adware, bloatware, spyware. Whether or not you find it useful, well, that's up to you to determine. But at least it's from a reputable source, and you don't have to worry about add-on bloatware or packaged items like other software distribution sites like to tack on, little add-ons of things you don't want. Remember all the toolbars people used to get? I don't know how I got these toolbars. Yeah, well, that's sort of over with now, but there's still sites that like to bundle together stuff in order to generate money. Nick is not doing that here. Nick is has an upstanding moral and ethical character, which is why we get along. So I did want to take a minute to show off his site. He's been around for years. It's not like he's a new kid on the block. And his applications are all written by him to solve real problems that real people have. They're not just like, what can I do to scam people out of $1, And like I said, all these tools on this page are all free anyway. So hopefully you like his products and you're going to want to buy some of his products that are for sale. And you'll see that in All Software, we've got the Uncle Carey stuff here, which is very, very flattering to me. You don't see anybody else's name in there. It's just Uncle Carey. So this is sort of an exception that D7X Tech is making for me. And I'm very flattered and I'm honored for that. And I guess that's enough of that brown nosing, but it's true. It's true. There are a lot of people that I look up to and I admire in this industry, and Nick is one of those guys. So with that, thank you guys so much for watching. I lost my camera. Hold on. There I am. Tomorrow's Wednesday. Yeah, I'll be back with a video tomorrow. I'm not sure what's happening tomorrow yet, but there is another video coming. Thursday and Friday, I don't think I'm going to have content. There may be some quick tips videos Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I don't know right now. That's all up in the air. Some stuff I got to get done. And then definitely back for sure then on Monday. So I will be back tomorrow and then Monday and some pre-recorded content for sure Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Maybe live content if there's time, but don't count on it. I'm not committing to it, but if it's possible, I will. And Monday, if all goes well, and I have the part from Be Quiet, the power supply, I'll start the 3950X build. But if that's going to happen on Monday, there'll be you'll get a notification that it'll be scheduled with a date and a time. So I want to give everybody as much advance notice as I have, right? A lot of this stuff happens last minute to me. So that's why I want to get into a studio, which I talked about earlier, so things can be more on a regular schedule. Okay, I'm done. Thanks for watching. I'll see you all again very, very soon. And until then, I'm finding my outro. Until then, bye for now.